Hey y'all, what is up? It is Tasha. I am back with another video. Thank you so much for stopping into my channel. Y'all know what you're supposed to do by now. Like, comment, subscribe, of course, and watch the ads if you don't mind. You got a little bit of time in your day, just watch. It helps a sister out just a little bit, so please go ahead. I want you guys to sit back and get comfortable because this episode of Married at First Sight, baby, this is what I'm talking about, Married at First Sight. If you're going to give me 2 hours, give me 2 hours full of content, okay? Now, that first 10, 15 minutes where we had to recap all of them, in bed and everything, y'all could have kept that part. But other than that, y'all did a pretty good job on moving the story along this episode and not just belaboring the issue. So kudos to y'all. But I have a lot of notes, y'all. So I'm going to try to be conscious of the time, but if y'all watched, y'all know we got a lot to talk about this episode. So let's go ahead and get into it. So of course we are season 14, episode 4 with Married at First Sight. Again, the episode opens recapping the wedding nights, them leaving the receptions, getting to the hotel room, blah, blah, blah. Again, we don't need to see that. We sat through that last week. Let's just move along with the story. We see Lindsay and Mark talk about their parents, and Lindsay talks about how she found out her mom wasn't coming to the wedding via an email that I guess the mom had sent to somebody else. And in the email, she kind of talks bad about Lindsay a little bit. Now, this is horrible, but also throughout this episode and what her daddy just keeps saying, I get the feeling that Lindsay does have a pretty smart mouth. So while I feel bad about the strained relationship that her and her mom have, I feel like she's playing it to us as if I've been the perfect child and my mom just does not like me. I don't believe that. Something else is going on there while the two of you do not really get along. But anyway, Mark talks about his mom being in a deep, dark depression. Really, after she retired from work, she just kind of stopped getting dressed and stopped caring about herself. And then after his dad died, she really went into a deep depression. And so she's been on and off again with wanting to receive help for her issues. But Lindsay, she goes and she starts saging down the room child, turns the heat up and stuff while Mark wasn't looking and whatever. Over at Michael and Jasmina, Michael tells Jasmina that, he had a conversation with her stepdad at the reception. And he says, not to let Jasmina walk all over him. And she's like, I'm not bossy. I just had one guy that just wouldn't argue with me. And I don't know if this is a toxic trait, but I felt Jasmina on this because while I don't want to argue all the time, I do have experience with a guy that just agrees with everything you say and just doesn't necessarily challenge you. And that really makes things a bit boring and annoying. And I can understand her frustration of, I just don't want you to always go along and get along with everything that I say. Because hell, I might be wrong and I need you to challenge or maybe educate me on something. So I was feeling you on that, Jasmine. I mean, maybe we toxic together if that is toxic. But we need to learn how to have healthy discussions and disagreements is all I'm trying to say. Steve and Noy, they get ready for bed and they cuddle. That's pretty much it. Back to the drama of Alyssa and Chris. They are getting into the elevator and she has the stankiest look on her face, okay? She still won't talk to this man as they are walking towards the elevator in the hotel room door. She continues to say she feels uncomfortable in the moment because of some things that were said, and he tries to ask her, what she wants to say or what happened, and she just doesn't want to get into it. And I'm just like, girl, that's what people say when they really know they don't have a valid reason to be feeling the way that they feel. But now they 10 toes deep in this argument and it's really no backing out at this point. So I just got to say whatever I got to say to keep going because I've already gone this far and it ain't no turning back at this point. Is essentially what I'm getting from her pretty much avoiding having the conversation. And I feel horrible for Chris in this moment. Like, you have to deal with this type of nonsense only a few hours after meeting this heifer. Like, Chris, this poor man looks like he is on the brink of tears. He is so confused. And I'm just like, I just need you to be an adult, Alyssa. Be an adult and talk to this man. Whether that's good, bad, or indifferent, I need you to just be straight up with him so he can continue to, so he knows where you stand with him. Like, this is uncalled for. And if I was Chris' sister, Alyssa would have to meet me outside because I would be on that ass. Do you hear me? You're not going to treat my brother like this, do you? Catch me outside, Alyssa. Anyway, it's finally officially day 1 of marriage, and everyone is waking up the next morning acting like they've cuddled all night. You know how they do. Michael wakes Jasmina up, of course, because he's used to getting up at like 4:30 in the morning for work. And she was like, I wish I could have slept longer. Girl, get used to it. They eat a little breakfast in bed. They talk about her last name, which is now Morency, and it's Jasmina Morency. And I'm like, that's cute. They got a little ring to it, girl. I ain't mad at it. We see Mark's eyes have finally calmed down a bit. He's excited about waking up next to his wife. They talk about why they decided to get on Married at First Sight, and he says it's something he's always wanted. She says she is a giver, and she's been with a lot of takers, and she feels like she's gotten the prize with Mark the Shark, and they laugh, and they will laugh for the rest of their lives, and she has no doubt it's going to be a success. And I'm like, if you don't run this man off first, because that's the vibes that I'm getting. He's going to get sick of your shit real fast. But let's move on because that happens later in the episode. Noe and Steve, they wake up together. Y'all, they look super cute. I like how they look together. I just want Steve to get a job, okay? But he brings breakfast to bed, and I'm like, you need to be useful for something around here because you ain't getting up to go to work. He says, you know, he was able to spend a little bit of time with her. His nerves was now put to ease, and it really felt comfortable cuddling with her last night. And they have a lot of chemistry. But no hanky-panky went down last night. Noe talks about her dog Sushi, and she's excited for them to meet. And they basically gonna have to square up to see who's gonna sleep next to her because the dog sleeps in the bed with her. I'm like, you got a man now? The dog needs his own bed, sis. Katina and Olajuwon wake up, and he is excited because, you know, she still smells good. She still smelled like she smelled yesterday, and she don't got stinky morning breath. You know, I was really nervous if she would have stinky morning breath because that's a turnoff. Well, so how is your breath in the morning? Both of our mouths have been closed for the past 8+ hours. But Olajuwon, child. Katina asks him about his past dating life, and he says he was just having fun. It wasn't really cheating because there were not any titles on anything. And I guess we're going to let that slide because technically, if that's the case, he is correct. But he was still out here holding these streets, okay? Anyway, Katina says, you know, her friends would describe her as the party girl. And she basically kind of had a cut buddy. Y'all get it. But they was kind of living similar lives, if we being honest. If we move on back to poor Chris, he is waking up alone, and Alyssa says she doesn't feel good about everything. They ended up meeting at 2:30 in the morning without the cameras, and he said that she just they just didn't vibe. And I'm like, Alyssa, girl, it's not even been a smooth 24 hours. So how you know if the vibe is there, okay? So they meet up and talk, and she says she doesn't feel well because she didn't sleep much, and he says, same sis, and he's worried that she's completely checked out. She says he feels she wasn't in this for the right reason, and I'm like, girl, if you had this hot supermodel husband instead of Chris, yeah, she would have been in for the right reason, but whatever. She thinks they are just two different people. Their hobbies are different. How they live their everyday lives is very different. Again, all of this is bullshit because it's been less than 24 hours, Alyssa. She then has to say she takes things at a very slow pace. We all know this is lies. And he asks if she wants to move forward. And she says, regardless of what happens, she wants them to go through it and see what happens. But she doesn't have much hope of it making it past the 8 weeks. And in my mind, I'm like, if you already have that type of mindset, then you're really not going to be in the mindset to even try to make this work. And in that case, stop wasting this man's time. I want to say to both of y'all time, but I don't care about her time getting wasted because she's getting on my nerves. But do not waste Chris' time like this. Like, this is so disrespectful. She gets on my nerves. Like, I thought Mirla had me upset the first few episodes last season, but this child right here, woo! I just don't understand how she can make so many judgments and assumptions about how things are going to go when you have not had real in-depth conversation with this man. You are basing everything off what his friends have said, which I'm sure his friends didn't really think that deeply as to what they were telling you and how deep you took the information, and then off of kind of small comments that he has made, but really no in-depth conversation. Alyssa, so girl, stop playing in my face. We see Katina meets up with two of Michael's sisters, and she talks about the nerve she had when she put on her dress, and it was just like, am I really about to do this? And of course, his sisters, being the sisters they are, we all a little nosy, they gonna ask, did y'all consummate the marriage? And she's like, no, we did not. She asks about, how he is when he's angry, and they says, he'll just walk off to calm down, and that I can understand. I would rather somebody walk off to calm down a little bit so that they just don't say things in anger. But I'm gonna need you to come back and we're gonna sit down and have this conversation about what just happened, okay? Then they share that Michael assumes the worst a lot so he doesn't over anticipate the outcome, and so he won't be disappointed. Jasmina is nervous that this is a red flag because she says that all of her relationships have been long distance, and she is just, this is her first time having someone that lives in the same state as her. And I'm like, oh, Jasmina, that can be a bit of a red flag for you as well, honey, because I'm hoping you don't get sick of him being in your space very fast, because you're obviously not used to. It's not that you're not used to having someone else live with you. You're not even used to having somebody being readily available to you, because your past relationships, you haven't had that. So I'm a tiny bit nervous that after a few weeks in, she's going to be like, oh God, he's always around. He's always here. We always got to go do something. Like, just go to your house and then come back in 2 weeks, like a long distance relationship. I am a bit afraid about that. So we'll have to see how that plays out, y'all. But his sisters say they love her already, and I love it. Y'all know I do. Michael meets with Jasmina's mom and sisters, and her mom is more comfortable now that, she's seen him, but she's still protective of her baby because, Jasmina was young when she experienced divorce with her parents. Her mom asked, what example of marriage has he had? And he said he doesn't have any good examples of marriage because his mom and dad really wasn't together. I'm not sure if wasn't even together in relationship or wasn't married. I don't know. But he says he has 5 sisters. He was raised by women. So his sisters, his mom, his grandma, and they taught him how to be a protector and how to take care of a woman. So he basically pretty much believes, although I haven't seen it, they've pretty much given me the tools that I know what to do to be a good man and a good husband. And I can agree with that. Her mom says it's concerning and exciting because you do have an image in your mind about what marriage looks like. And sometimes if you haven't seen that, some of those expectations can be a little bit unrealistic. I do agree with mom on that too. Michael says that he can see in her mom's eyes that she is terrified. And Jasmina's mama, she ain't really holding back either. She giving it to him. But she says she doesn't really know him. Honestly, right now, everything is superficial. So it sounds like she's basically like holding a lot of her judgment really about him until she knows a little bit more about him, which is fair because those first few meetings, even with anybody, dating or otherwise, it's real superficial in the beginning, and then you get deep, and that's where you find out all the stuff, okay? Noy meets with Steve's parents, and they ask her some questions, and his father asks about, her culture, because he said, I noticed your outfit at the wedding. So Noy starts to cry and says that she felt good that Steve was just ready to embrace her culture so easily and so readily. His dad brings up the fact that Steve ain't got no job, and he just wants to travel. And Noy says, they haven't discussed it yet, but she hopes he has some sort of plan. And I'm like, y'all better make sure that is crystal clear. Unless he planning on be a blogger that's making money traveling, I'm gonna need you to have a full-time job and traveling to be your hobby, okay? His dad asks if things doesn't work, what happens if things don't work out. And she says, she'll be devastated because things are going so well. Noy, girl, give it a full 48 hours, okay? Before you're going to be completely devastated if things don't work out. Calm down. Next, Steve meets with Noy's sisters. Well, her brother, but today her brother is dressed like, I guess, his alter ego, which is Sriracha. She asked Steve about the traveling he has done, and he says it was mainly about reconnecting with himself rather than finding himself. They asked about the freelance he has done and, if he's looking for something a little bit more stable. And he says, where the world is right now, I kind of feel like freelancing is good for him. And maybe he's just saying that the corporate world or whatever he was in before was maybe really taxing on him, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally. And then maybe where he is with being able to freelance and kind of be his own boss, that he's better in all those aspects as well. I don't know, but that's what I'm assuming. And then they ask, about having kids, because Sriracha brings up, because you 38, girl, what is happening? He says he doesn't want to rush it. And then Sriracha kind of keeps going. What are your plans for being financially responsible for your future children? And I understand like grilling somebody because listen, you are now married to my sister. I need to know what is happening, what is going on, what is your future, what are your goals, what are your intentions. I get it all, but Sriracha, pipe down, sis. Your sister hasn't even had a chance to have these conversations with him. Bring it on down just a little bit, okay? Anyway, Steve says that, different people have different expectations out of life, and before he can even say anything else, Sriracha's like, so what do you want out of life? And he can't even answer again before the mom starts to whine and say, but I want grandkids. But before you have kids, you need to have a job. Yo, I'm like, Noi, your family is out here wilding, girl. Your family is giving Steve the third degree out here. And I hate it. I can also appreciate it a little bit. But his family is being so kind and sweet to her at her brunch. And here he is like getting everything thrown at him when, again, he and Noi haven't even had a chance to have these discussions. Child, it was a little much. Next, we see Lindsay meet with Mark's friends. And he said that, things went well last night. They did a lot of talking. They say, that she'll have to break down his guard, but, he does wear his heart on his sleeve and he trusts everyone almost to a fault. They asked if she was nervous when she turned the corner to meet him, and she says, no, I think, we'll be able to stand by each other emotionally. He's in tune with his emotions and he seems to be emotionally available. She tells his friends that she thinks they got the perfect match for her. And I'm like, okay, girl. She asks about his mom and, kind of what she needed to know there. And his friends basically says that, he's just concerned about the safety of his mom. And Lindsay says, that she used to work in hospice, so she kind of understands those emotional side of things and all that good stuff. But his friends really seem to like her. And I'm going to preface this by saying in this moment, because we know we're going to talk about the rest of the episode, in this moment, I did like Lindsay and I could appreciate her being a bit more calmer, inserting her jokes where it was appropriate, even with when y'all come to the housewarming, y'all gonna get a cat, you get a cat, you get a cat, because they got all these cats. So I could appreciate her humor while she was with them and could see why they would like her, but I don't know about long term. Mark then meets with her father and friends, and they give him a Lindsay survival kit that includes a little button that keeps saying no, no, no when you press it, and then give him a snack bar because girls like snacks. Lindsay's dad said that he will need to know how to reel her in when she gets upset, and basically her tongue can be sharp, and he has told her that she needs to watch her words. Again, this is why I said what I said before about the relationship with her and her mama, because I'm like, Lindsay, girl, that tongue, I already got the vibe. That tongue can be slick, but I'm going to need her to be able to reel herself in. She is an adult, and it should not take another adult to be able to check her emotions and reel her back in. That should not be Mark's responsibility. Every now and then, I can imagine, somebody getting out of character and needing to be calmed down. But for somebody to constantly feel like they're going to have to reel you in, no, that's going to be exhausting for that man. No, because I really don't want her words to end up hurting Mark, because he is so emotional and is so trusting that I feel like if she lashes out at him in the moment, even if she does not mean it, it is going to be damaging to him. And I don't want that for him. Chris is having brunch with Alyssa's mom and friend, and this could not be even more awkward. I'm just like, do they know what happened? Is he gonna tell them what happened? I'm sure she has gotten on the phone and if not talked to her mama, she has talked to that Kardashian like friend and told her what is happening. He says that things didn't go well and that, she's basically says she just wants to be friends. And her mom says, maybe it'll just take some time. And she thinks, she thinks Chris is just a great man with a wonderful heart. Her friend says that she thinks the honeymoon would be good for them to get to know each other. But, Alyssa's very particular about guys. And I think she may be a little bit rash in her decision making right now. Tell that to your friend, not to him, okay? But they basically think that on their honeymoon, it will be time for them to connect and start as friends. And her mom is like, I'm just still hopeful. And I'm like, Mom, too bad the rest of us are not hopeful because your daughter is acting like a bitch. She's acting like a bitch. Alyssa then meets with his family and friends, and she didn't look like she put any effort into herself, honey, to come into this brunch with them. They ask what, made her think this is the right path. And she says, she doesn't know. And she's like, hey, the worst that can happen is that, this is just not right. And I didn't get the right match. And I'm just like, okay, girl, whatever. She says, I'm a very open person and I don't think I'm very private, but I don't feel comfortable talking to them about last night. It's just weird. I just don't like it. And I'm like, yeah, because you are the evil one in this moment. And how you going to basically sit at a table with his family and friends and be like, I think your friend is ugly and I don't like him. Because that's essentially what it all boils down to. Because if he was your type, you would kind of let all this other little stuff slide that you are making really mountains of out of right now. So yeah, whatever, child. But his friend does say, because she asks basically, well, what do y'all do with him when, there's free time? And they like, well, there's not a lot of free time because he's a realtor. So, somebody like that, they can feel like they're always on their phone. They're always working. And he's really driven and motivated to do his work. And what she took out of that conversation is the friend basically saying he's going to put you second to work. And she's like, well, how he's going to do that? I mean, we're married. How are you going to say I'm going to be second? Girl, right now you need to be last. Give the man time. He's been single. Of course, he could put himself in his work 100%. Give him time to make adjustments with his work, to spend time with you. It's a different story if we give him the space and opportunity and he doesn't make the change. But y'all it has not been 24 hours. It has not been 24 hours. Oh, God. Olajuwon meets with Katina's people. He says that he needs to work on his cuddle game. And her friend is like, oh, so y'all didn't cuddle? Girl, no, they didn't have sex. Stop being so nosy. Katina meets with his second mom. That's how they had her described in the title. And they talk about his past dating. And she asks if he is committed to just being with one woman now. The mom says she thinks he is, and he wants to have that, and he wants to have a family. She gives Katina a gift, and it's a shirt that says, you make me smile. And she says that, I'm now turning over the role of being his cheerleader to you. And I'm like, that was sweet, but not. Back to her friends, they ask if he is here for the right reasons. And he says he isn't a bad looking guy, so I don't really struggle with the ladies. I just wanted to try something new. And she has a guy friend that is there. And the guy friend is like, but this ain't just something new. This is marriage. And the guy friend is not with the shits. And I'm here for the guy friend for kind of checking Olajuwon, because I kind of get a little bit of that from him too, okay? He's like, this is forever. What you talking about? And Olajuwon is then like, if you think I'm BSing, call me out on the BS. And then you'll probably be ready to fight if somebody called you out on your BS, Olajuwon. Cut it out. But basically the guy friend is like, I'm not sure if he's just here, for the fame, the attention, the clout, whatever it is. And I can't say at this point what I'm getting from Olajuwon either. Like a little bit of me feel like he wants to be married, but also a little bit of me feels like this is time to shine on TV, and this gives Isaac a better opportunity to get more ladies flooding his inbox. I don't know. Jasmina and Michael, they meet back up and he says that he has a lot of winning over to still do with her mom. And Jasmina is like, I don't want the family over. The family is sold, so I'm good over here. Lindsay and Mark share how the meetings went and how his dad says that, he has to reel her in a little survival kit they gave him. Noi and Steve meet back up and says the meeting went great with her family, but Sriracha came a little hard. Noi's like, yeah, she can do that sometimes. Noi does say that his dad brought up his job situation, and she asks about where he is with that. And honestly, I don't feel like Steve really has a plan. He's like, I kind of need to think about and decide when or if I'm going to go back and get a full-time job. And I'm like, how much is this freelancing paying you? Is it bringing in the coins it need to bring in to take care of a family? Now, if it is, kudos to you, Steve. But if it ain't, we need a full-time job with some benefits of the 401k, okay? All right. Katina and Olajuwon meet up, and basically he says, her guy friend was questioning his intentions, and she's like, well, I really trust him. He's a protector. He really has, a good judge of character. And he isn't sure because Olajuwon isn't sure about him because he just seemed to question everything. And I'm like, that's what friends are supposed to do. They're supposed to find out things that their friends may be blinded to and then tell your friend, hey, I'm going to need you to beware and look out for X, Y, and Z. Okay, that's what a good friend does. But of course, he's like, I ain't going to beg no man to talk to me. Either you rock with me or you don't. Boy, this is her friends. Shut up. The couples are now preparing for the honeymoon with their gift baskets coming to their door, and they start looking through it, and then we discover that they are going to San Juan, Puerto Rico for the honeymoon. Lindsay has to tell us, I've been to PR like a dozen times. Oh, no, maybe like 7 times, so you're going to love it. And I'm like, don't be that person, Lindsay. Don't. And then they show them packing up for the honeymoon, which I never understand because y'all only been here one night. So your honeymoon bag should have been already packed in a separate luggage bag. So why you didn't got to pack? Child, whatever. Chris and Alyssa meet up, and he isn't convinced that she isn't at a 0 right now. And I want to yell through my TV, Chris, trust your gut. She is at a 0. She says she's ready to go on the trip to see the other couples and spend time with them. And I'm like, what about spending time with your husband? It's a honeymoon. It's not a friendcation, okay? It's about spending time and getting to know your husband. She pretty much looks completely disgusted anytime she is around with, not just uninterested. She looks disgusted when she is around him. It makes me so mad, y'all, because I feel like he is being so accommodating to her, and she's just continuing to be so rude and nasty to him as if he is giving her his ass to kiss. Like, it's the other way around, honey. She says he is trying to yes her to death. And I'm like, he is just trying to be nice to you. Because, again, you're being a bitch, Alyssa. And you don't deserve his niceness at this point. Because he basically asks, when you get there, do you want to go sightseeing? And she's like, no. He's like, well, we can go shopping, And she's like, no, I just kind of want to be by the beach. He was like, oh, the beach. We can do that, too. And she's like, you can still just do what you want to do. Just because I want to go to the beach doesn't mean he has to go to the beach. It is a honeymoon, Alyssa. You're supposed to spend time with your spouse. Oh, get out my face. Chris is basically frustrated and doesn't know if she came in with the right intentions and if she hasn't already completely written him off, and it's getting hard to even try. And I really wish he would start curving her the way she is curving him to give her a dose of her own medicine, because I am so sick of Alyssa at this point. They all head out to the airport. The couples meet up and they all ride together. They arrive, and it immediately makes me want to be on vacation. Like, beach me, please. Send me to Puerto Rico. I want to go. Lindsay and Mark ends up not riding with the other couples to the resort, and the producers are coming in, and obviously something has happened. And apparently she is trying to tell people what language they need to speak while they are here. So from what we get of the conversation, she apparently comes up to Olajuwon and Katina and asks if he speaks Spanish, and he says he knows a little, but he will speak English because that's the language he is comfortable with. She says that, well, you are on their native land. You should speak their language. And I'm like, you do realize you're in the same country, right? Okay. So Olajuwon says that he tells her, just worry about your husband. And to be honest, I was completely curious as to why Lindsay felt she could go up to Olajuwon and ask if he spoke Spanish. Are you assuming because of his looks that he is Puerto Rican and that he should know how to speak Spanish? Like, it made the light bulb go off for me. And I'm like, Lindsay, girl, don't start with the antics, okay? Don't start with the antics. Katina then tells us as she walked past, she says that she wants to fight him. And I'm like, girl, pipe down. And Katina's like, girl, this ain't even your culture either. Calm down. Lindsay, you trying it with the black girls. You trying it. You trying it. Jasmina is like, we only been here for a few hours. How did we get here? Like, what is happening so fast? Katina's like, just keep her away from me at this point. And I am all on team Katina at this point. Like, because we know Lindsay Mouth can be reckless. Her own dad has said that. I can only imagine how that really went down. And I'm sorry, girl, but like T.I. said, you don't know me. Watch your mouth. Lindsay says, they show her back at the room. She looks like she showered. Her hair is wet. She says she needed a minute to regroup because one of the husbands got a little aggressive with her, and it really triggered her and brought her to a place where she didn't feel comfortable, and it shook her to her core. Y'all, when she went through and said this and then started crying, I got so pissed. I don't care if you don't agree with me. Lindsay is using all of the tools that white women use to get black men in trouble. Using these key words of triggering, aggressive, uncomfortable, the tears. She is doing it all. And this is how black men get hurt because of this BS that she is portraying, because she knows she said or did something in this exchange to make this probably a mutual back and forth situation. But right now, because she's by herself, she is playing the victim role 1000%, and I can't stand it. This kind of stuff right here makes me so upset when white women in particular do this bull right here. I don't care if, don't come for me in the comments, because I don't care if you don't agree with me. I said what I said in my Nene Leakes voice, okay? Anyway, she starts to cry and says, I have the best husband and I just love him already because he just makes me feel, really cared for and protected. Get out my face, Lindsay. All the couples then head out to start to explore Puerto Rico, and poor Mark continues to get no interaction from Alyssa, and she's just being so standoffish. And I'm like, just go to the room if you're going to act like that. Don't mess up the vibe of everybody else here, okay? Michael says that he hasn't seen any interaction between basically Chris and Alyssa. He ain't sure what's going on, but he minding his business for now. Lindsay and Mark don't join the rest of the couples hanging out and having drinks. Then Olajuwon is like, we're not going to let one thing ruin the trip. We're all kind of learning about each other. We'll figure it out. Mark does end up coming down, and he's pretty cool when he comes down and says, I told her she's kind of always at a 10. We all have buttons, and you just kind of really don't know what buttons are going to trigger somebody. So he says, I just want to apologize, from, my half, my side. And I really can appreciate Mark doing this. I don't know if she would have been on the same page if she was actually down here with him in this moment. But again, I think this is going to get old and exhausting if he constantly feels like he has to apologize on her behalf because of her reckless mouth. At this point, put Lindsay and Alyssa in a room together and let them just be mad together, okay? Olajuwon says, he doesn't need an apology. And Katina says, I'm a patient person and I can be cordial with her, but I don't really want to be in the space with her for a long time. She's a bit much and it just is what it is. I understand. You got to take Lindsay in small doses. Noy and Steve then pop some champagne. He still can't get over that he has a wife child. She's afraid of heights, and he's really just reassuring her while they're out on the balcony. They talk about what they want to do first, and he wants to do, real adventurous things. And she's like, I just don't want to die on my honeymoon, okay? Just don't let me die. And I'm like, yeah, same. Michael and Jasmina, they toast to making memories, and they talk about what happened with the other couples. And he thinks it will be conflict, and she doesn't agree because they all have boundaries. And he says, well, you have to learn what those boundaries are when you first meet people. And I can agree with that. She says she thinks positive and doesn't automatically think about the conflict that will arise. And basically kind of what his sisters has said earlier about him always kind of thinking negatively in the beginning. It is showing. But in this situation, I don't necessarily think either of them are necessarily right or wrong, because I agree that I don't want to necessarily walk into a space and automatically think it's going to be conflict, but I'm not going to be naive enough to think that all 10, 12 of us are going to automatically get along and it's going to be cupcakes and roses all the time as well. So in this situation, I think it's just a difference of opinion, but nobody is right and nobody's wrong at this moment. Back to Lindsay and Mark. She says, she's fine. Mark says, that drinks went well with the other couples. He says that, two people just hit a nerve and you just got to be comfortable and really just not provoke anyone as we're all getting to know each other. He says he'll always have her back. And I'm like, girl, again, you are a lucky one, because some men will be like, why you out here acting crazy? But she says, I think I just already love him because of, just who he are and what he's done. Girl, it's been 2 days. You do not love this man. Back to Chris and Alyssa. It is hella awkward as they are out on the balcony and they are talking. He isn't sure if he even should just continue to make an effort right now. She goes out and says, oh, it's so gorgeous here. And he says, it is, but do you want to stay here? And she's like, I don't feel comfortable staying in the same room, with someone I don't know very well. And legit in this moment, Chris and I busted out laughing. I will not holler because I don't want to bust y'all ears with this mic on. But we both hollered because I'm like, girl, did you know what you was signing up for? This show is in its 14th season. The name of the show is Married at First Sight, which means you'll be married to a stranger, i.e. someone you don't know. This ain't nothing new, Alyssa. Chris says it's a ridiculous notion, and I completely agree. He recaps everything that happened the previous days, and at no point has she put in any effort, and she expected the perfect person, and she's like, no, I didn't. And then she gets defensive, and she's like, no, that's just not it. I feel gypped. You feel gypped. This just sucks for the both of us, and there's been nothing but problems since the second we met. Yeah, problems from you, ho. Like, this man has not come to you with no problem. So stop trying to act like it's both of y'all that's going on. She talks about all these differences that they have. And I'm trying to decide, or trying to figure out when they had so much time to talk about all these differences, because it don't look like y'all be talking. You just be not wanting to talk and Chris just be having to deal with it. So how you know about all these differences that y'all have? Chris says, all these things that have happened, with all these things that have happened, I really don't feel like you've given us a chance. And she's like, yes, I did. You don't believe I have? And Chris is like, no. And I'm like, same, girl. None of us believe you did not give this a shot from the time you turned that corner and you saw him at the end of that aisle. You did not try, honey. Stop trying to lie to our face. We all saw you were checked out. Stop it. Then she says, I'm not doing this. And then she walks away because she's just like, he's just going to call me a liar and I'm not doing this on camera. And again, we got to insert white woman tears here, okay? She says, I'm just a nice person and I just want him to be nice to me. She keeps saying that, things just keep happening. And obviously her friend and her mom had went back to tell her what they talked about during their little brunch, and that made her upset. She's mad because essentially she didn't discuss what happened with them to his parents and friends, but yet when they asked Chris how things are going, he was completely honest with them. You can't be mad at this man for being honest. Just because you decided not to share doesn't make him bad. And again, you didn't share because you are the bad guy in this situation. So it would make you look like crap if you then told his friends and parents about this stuff. Girl, what part of that don't you understand? She's like, I thought this was a private matter. You are on a television program. This is not a private matter, okay? Let's understand that, okay? But she just says, we aren't compatible, and she thinks, this just needs to stop, and this isn't just going to work, and we just need to be respectful. And again, he's being respectful. You are being the bitch. She says she doesn't know what will happen this week and hopes that he can be respectful because that's what she gives him. And she just hopes they can have respect going forward. And y'all, me and Chris in tandem in this situation said she is gaslighting him. Before I could even type it well in my notes, Chris said, I believe I'm being gaslighted. And I'm like, you are 1000% being gaslighted. She is the one with the problem. She is trying to flip the situation around to make it act like you are the one with the issue and you are being disrespectful towards her. And it's basically everything she is saying is a reflection of her behavior and what she has been doing to him. I was so mad at this. Y'all, they just go to their separate ways and they sleep in separate rooms. And I absolutely hate this for Chris. And these are the moments when I need the experts to jump in now rather than once these folks get back home. I need Pastor Cal, Dr. Pepper, somebody get on the line and talk to Lindsay because she is acting a straight ass out here in Puerto Rico, okay? Anyway, Katina and Olajuwon chatting. He basically appreciates her having his back. And, you know, she's like, I think Lindsay's a little bit shady and I don't really like bullying. So, yeah, I'm going to be down, basically. Olajuwon wants him to not harbor on it and thinks that, you know, she may have a little bit of a wall built up. And I'm like, again, Isaac, pipe down. It's only been a little bit of time. Give this girl time to put her walls down. He asks her, you know, about being vulnerable. And she says, you know, she's afraid to let things down a bit because she's given people a lot of chances in the past. And basically it's done nothing but burn her in the long term. So she got her guard up. But again, just give her time to get it worked down. He says he doesn't want that to he doesn't want his past treatment of women to really dictate their future because he is different. And I'm just really hoping that Olajuwon shows up continuously and not Isaac, and he does not end up hurting this girl because that would just be like, oh God, get on my nerves. But anyway, that is how the episode ended. That's this week. Next week looks like we got a lot more argument and drama happening with the couples, and I'm just like, we just getting into it early this season with the tit for tat and the discussions and the disagreements. Okay, Married at First Sight. So, y'all, we will be back here next week to discuss it. As always, drop your comments below, whether you agree with me or not. It is what it is. Just be respectful. In the words of Alyssa, just respect me, I respect you, okay? Be respectful in the comments, but as always, feel free to drop your thoughts below, and we will chat it up down there. I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace.